All right, cool. So today I'm just gonna kind of I don't know if I want to read the gospel, but I'm just gonna kind of talk about what it's saying. It's Luke 15:1 through 10. It said there will be rejoicing in heaven over one repentant sinner. Um, okay, so yeah, the Pharisees. So there were these tax collectors and sinners, right? The tax collectors apparently back in the day were everybody hated them. Um, and they were like listening to what like Jesus had to say, that sort of thing. And the Pharisees were pretty upset. They were like, look at this guy who like he's cool with sinners and he like eats with them, sort of thing. So then Jesus said, well, like if you lose a sheep out of the 100 sheep that you have, is it not true that you're gonna go out and find it? And when you find it, you're not gonna like rejoice and then put it over your shoulders and like come back home and celebrate. In the same sort of situation where if you were to lose, back then they called them drachmas. I'm just gonna call them like it seems like maybe 10 drachmas is a lot, but maybe it's somebody who doesn't have that much money. But like, let's say you have like $10 and you lose one of them. So, you won't, like, I guess his point is like, won't you go looking for it and make sure that you find it? And when you do find it, you'll rejoice. That sort of a thing. And I think that idea is important, not just in the sense of Christianity, but like, of course, in the sense of Christianity, because that's like the whole point of this, but just kind of in the sense of like our lives. When it comes to anything, we, yes, we expect people that are already on our side or like within our own ideology to just be where just be there, that sort of a thing. We're like, it's exciting to have them with us, and we get these deep conversations and fantastic ideas out of them, but it becomes sort of an echo chamber when it's just this when you're only surrounded by these people. But when you're surrounded by people that completely disagree with you, that think you're absolutely ridiculous, and even they respect you and have this sort of like inclination or openness to accepting what you're saying because to them it resonates a lot, then that's something that you get even more excited about because you learn more about it yourself because they're contesting you. They're saying, no, this is why you're wrong. And that's why it's important for people to understand that when they speak about something, they need to be as truthful and as clear, even if they think they're wrong about something. This is what I think it is, rather than just like, I just don't really know. It's like, if you think this is what it is, even though you like, you can even kind of preface it by saying, I think I'm wrong on this, but this is what I believe on it. This is why I believe it. And it's important to say that so that when you speak with somebody, it's, people don't often realize how much power they have when they speak to somebody or when they're talking. It's like when you talk to somebody or when you're just present somewhere, you make an impression, even in the people that you don't realize you're making an impression in. It's important to understand that when you're around, that when you surround yourself with people who aren't necessarily, they're your adversaries, you're gonna have an effect on them and they're gonna have an effect on you. And hopefully one of y'all have like a strong enough foundation, or the both of y'all have a strong enough foundation to the point where if y'all do get to the point where you concede the concede ground and say, hey, like, actually what you're saying makes a lot of sense, and what I was saying about this, it's not consistent, it's a reasonable path to take, or it makes sense that this person would make that, rather than just like you saying something and they're just like, oh, that makes so much sense, yes, of course. It's like, yeah, like maybe what you're saying is very truthful, but the other person needs to be, I think stalwart is the right word, or just fortuitous. Like, they need to understand that it's not just they need to take what you're saying for the truth, because even the truth cannot seem that plausible sometimes. It doesn't make sense why this would happen. But upon like further examination or a little bit more of an internalization, an experience that you go through, you realize, oh, actually what they're saying, it makes a lot of sense. And that's a beautiful conversion. I think that's a little bit more what he's talking about here, where you speak and you convince somebody, or maybe you don't speak, you just live and you show people this is the way to do it. This is maybe through your joy, through your peace, through your proclivity towards like services or helping people. It's just, there's something about you that resonates with these people, and when they're completely against you, even they look at you and say, oh wow, actually this is something I need to consider, and then they're brought home. that's what we call like being brought to like our side. So if it's a Christianity brought home, if it's like any other ideology like brought home, you've shown people this is the way. This is a good way to do it. This is appropriate for you and for many, pretty much for most people. Like I think there's very few. There's a lot of ideologies that say everybody needs to believe this way, but it's rare that like I think the ideologies. Can be consistent across the board. Like every single person everywhere needs to actually believe in this. Otherwise, there's no fulfillment. There's no satisfying conclusion of the human story. There's no actual appropriate ending. It's the good that everybody does, right? I think most ideologies have exceptions, but yeah. I think even maybe Christianity has exceptions, sort of a thing too, where you can be saved outside of the faith. Like you don't know anything about it, but somehow through your own like following of your own conscience, because it was given to you by God, then you can actually be in communion with Him. And somehow you can still do that sort of thing, and that's a little bit more comforting. But that's kind of like the position they take on that sort of thing. But yeah, what Jesus was saying here is it's great to have people. You rejoice obviously more when you find somebody or when you convince somebody who is completely against you. That's why, like, I don't know, I think that's why a lot of communities, they get very excited. And it's not just Christianity. When people that were fighting against them like vehemently, they convert, they come to their side, they say, oh, actually. And you can kind of see the conversion too, because they're sort of starting to like give up ground. They're saying that this kind of makes sense a little bit, and you can see it happening, and the wheels turning, and then boom, they're on your side, and it's joyous, you know. So I think that's why he didn't necessarily use the example of like heaven and earth, heaven and people who don't feel like they want to be in heaven. He used more examples of like money, or used examples of like finding sheep, because it's very practical when people find themselves in a situation where they miss something, or they lose something, they're lacking something. And that's kind of how the community, that's how kind of any community feels about anybody who's not a part of it. When you speak about something and you believe in it, and it's a part of your identity. When people aren't a part of it, you know, like, and they have the choice, like, it's not like race where like you can't, but it's like when people have the choice to join it, that's what you want, right? That's it's very exciting to see somebody understand that what you were saying was true, right? It's also like a confirmation that what you were saying is also true, because it's like, I guess, power in numbers for them. But not just that. It's not just like you're missing these coins, or you're just missing the sheep. You know, that's kind of like what I was saying earlier. Like, communities feel like when people have the choice to join them, they feel like they're missing those people. Like, it's not complete without those people. And we're not going to be complete until we get to the point where it's all over and said and done. It's like as Christians, for example, we're not going to ever feel like the story's complete until it's over. Everything's over. Like, I don't know what that's going to look like. I'm sure there's a lot of point to it, like in Revelation or whatever, and people have like their theories of that. It's a very difficult like concept to understand, but like when it's all over and like it's all said and done, that's when it's like, this was our community all along. This was it. This is kind of the end. And it kind of sounds like I'm talking about like the elect, but it's just like there's a certain amount of people that will actually be a part of the community. And there's people, and I was kind of talking about this a little bit. No, I won't refer to that. But there's a certain amount of people that are going to be within that community, and there's going to be people that come in and out of it, and it's difficult to assess whether they actually were ever part of the community, or because if they leave, it's like, why did you leave? How does it make sense that you left if like this was the truth, and the truth wouldn't let you, like, once you find it, it's like you can't, it's almost like you can't give it up, but people still do. So this way, it's almost like people, I think a lot of Christians like kind of accuse other people of like never being Christian when they leave the faith or any other ideology. You were never a part of our community. You wouldn't have left, because the truth is it's so righteous, and it's something that you can't give up, that it wouldn't make sense that you would leave if you were actually one of us. And I think that's the way a lot of Christians feel when people like deconvert, because it's like, well, were you ever actually truly Christian? You know, and that's a damaging question, but it's also an important one. It's like, well, were you? You know, like, what about the people within the community if they commit some sort of like wrong to the community that's not consistent with its ideas? Are they still a part of that community? Were they still ever? Are they still a part of that community in those moments, right? And how would they rejoin that community? And I think that's kind of like the idea of like sin, right? It's like when you sin, are you still like Christian in those moments? But like, I guess I would say no. And you rejoin every time. Like that's why in mass, like when we go up to mass, it's like except I can't tell you the words verbatim, but it's you accept Jesus into your heart, sort of a thing. It's every Sunday. It's every day, pretty much. And then we go up and receive the Eucharist, but you can only receive it if you're not in mortal sin. Essentially, I think Christian still. So it's a difficult idea to like I think wrap your mind around, but I think the reason people get so excited in these communities when other people join them is because it's almost like those people were always meant to be in this community, and now it's like, hey, now you're here. Like it's like welcome back home, sort of a thing. Welcome home. That's why Catholics say it. It's like welcome home. It's like you were always meant to be here. It's just now finally you're here. And I think we hold hope that everybody's meant to be here, but some people never are, and some people within the community that look like they're a part of it actually are not with us. That's why I think in some other passage, I'm sure like people can quote it a lot better than I can. Depart from me, for I never knew you, and there was a lot of stuff before that I'm like giving a very like short part of it. So I think that's kind of the point of this. It's important to help people realize, and that's why I kind of don't agree with the idea of the elect. Is like you have to kind of help people realize that they need to be home, like in this community, whatever it may be, whether through your actions or through the way like you speak. When you spend time with people like your adversaries, people that are against you, you give them that fighting chance. You give them a greater chance. It's not guaranteed, and even if they do convert, it's still not even guaranteed that they're a part of your community. You can never know, and hopefully you can kind of figure out by the way they live and by the way they speak that it's clear they are a part of your community. And I think that's what we do with saints, right? It's very clear. There's no way you would have lived this way if you weren't a person of God, if you weren't a Christian. That's why the church canonizes saints. And for some of it, it's more clear than others, because this stuff wouldn't happen if you weren't. You wouldn't have received these graces if you weren't. Some people are really good at hiding it, you know? Some people are really good at hiding it. But that's why I think it's important when Jesus spends time with these sinners. He spends time with these tax collectors, and, you know, opposed to the Pharisees. Because when he does, he shows them, like, home is where you need to be. And my community, my people, my adopted children, is the community where you belong. And Jesus spending time with them is kind of showing that he, Bishop Robert Barron kind of said this in a sermon, like it was his most recent one. Today's November 5th, 2020, but he said it in one, I think in like late October, where it's less like we're trying to climb up the mountain to God, but rather he's knocking at the door saying like, and you need to open it. You need to clear all the space and like open it, so you can. He's looking for you, and that's sort of the same thing where it's like if you're already home, you're home. Like God is coming to look for the people who are not yet. And he's going to continue. Once you're home, you're around all these other people, and you're around you've been given these graces. You're in a place where it's just going to exude from you. But these people who haven't received them yet, whatever community it may be, if it's Christianity or if it's like something else, the truth is it's there. It's looking for you. But it's like it's more of you opening the door. And when you open the door, everybody rejoices. Everybody that's in the community is like, dude, finally, like you're home. There's no way you're gonna give this up. Like this is where you belong. And I think that's what Jesus was talking about in Luke 15:1-10. Deuces.